I'm going to show you how to replace the rear wing window on an 03 Buick Century. Looks like this in the rear. This one's going to be the passenger rear wing window. This car looks kind of like this in the front. In order to do this, we're going to have to remove the door panel, get this window down because the track assembly goes with it, and we'll remove this trim piece and pull some of this trim gasketing down out of the window assembly, just so we don't damage anything. To remove the door panel, we're going to pull out this cover. I just usually take a screwdriver. A trim tool would be better, but I use a screwdriver, pry it up, and then I remove the two 10mm screws. Use the 10mm socket for these. And then I pry this up from the front using my screwdriver. Again, a trim tool would be better. I'm just using what I have with me. I'm going to remove this electrical connector. If you were not at a wrecking yard and you had your own vehicle, you probably still have the battery hooked up. It might be good to roll this window a little bit down just so that it's easy to get to the screws in the track assembly, because the glass has to come out of the track here in order to get that out easier. So I push this button here to release this connector. We'd always be careful with these connectors, especially on the older cars, so we don't break them. Again, I'm going to use the screwdriver to pry this straight out. Comes straight out. The plastic clips are fragile. Be careful with them. This bezel around the door handle assembly comes out same way. We use a screwdriver and just pry straight towards you. And there's a clip there. There's two clips. So I got both of those clips removed. And this whole thing is going to slide. Let's see, is there another clip here? Yep, there's another clip. The whole thing slides forward. Set all these parts aside. Now the next step is to gently and specifically not break any of these clips. So we're going to use a trim tool or a screwdriver to gently work all of these clips straight out. So you can see as I start to work these loose, I can see what's left. I'm just going to keep massaging them loose very gently. Same thing on the front of the door. Now that I've got enough of them loose, I'm using my hand to work behind it. And I've got them all loose. And you can see with the door panel removed, I did not break any of those clips, so that's good. Set this out of the way. And now we're going to expose a couple areas. This is really goopy and terrible, but you don't want to ruin it. You can reuse it. This is the glue that holds your liner in. We need to get access to this screw or this bolt head right here. That should be a 10mm. And then this will trick you up. We're going to find two Phillips screws. One here and one here, because these hold the window in. So the other thing we're going to have to do, I'm going to expose a little bit more of this door. I try to never ruin this door liner. But we're going to get in here, and there's two 10mm bolts on the back of the door track right up in here. And we're going to use a wrench probably to get the door glass, the main roll up and down glass, off of the regulator track and lower it out of this track assembly so we can get the track assembly loose. I'll show you more in a second. So I got the first one out just by reaching in. These are just the two 10mm bolts holding the window to the regulator assembly. Let me get the other one out, then I'll show you more. Okay, so I had to do a little bit extra because this car's in a wrecking yard and I couldn't roll the window down. I went ahead and took the window regulator loose from the inside of the door, these two bolts and these two bolts, and now I can roll this window down. manually by hand. So I'm just going to massage the window back behind the track. So I'm going ahead and bringing this window down, and I've got it behind the regulator track. I went ahead and pulled out this piece of trim because it's just going to be in my way. But we got to get this window as much out of this track as we can right here. So I'm ready to take these screws out now. There should be a Phillips up here, Phillips here, and then a 10mm here. Let me see if we can get these out. Okay, so with the the 2 screws and the 1 bolt that holds this in loose, I'm gonna see if I can't get this assembly to work loose. So I'm gonna, without bending this track, I need to massage and work this window loose out of the door frame. So that's what I'm gonna work on now. I'm just gonna gently wiggle and push to see if I can get it loose without breaking the glass or ruining the track. Okay, so I just felt it break loose. Here's how I did it. I just, with a firm 2-handed grip right here, I just kind of wiggled and pulled until it came loose. I'm gonna see how it looks from the outside. So we've gotten it to come loose. I think this trim needs to come off. Let's see if I can get this one off. Okay, something I said earlier but I forgot about. We're gonna pull this window trim out of here and pull it out of this track, and then that whole window will come loose. So you get this trim out of here. That's your window glide and window seal. So with that being said, that whole window should now just lift right up and out, and this is what you have out of the car. You can see where your bolt's attached here, here, and here. All that rubber's intact. We got a good window here. And this is what it looks like with it removed. So I'm gonna show you, just gently push this molding back up here. Put this here. I'm gonna slide this window back up because I think it's the right thing to do, to leave things at the wrecking yard as close to how you found them, so the next person actually has some good, decent parts, not just a tore apart car with the windows down and the doors open. If you open the door, people, shut it. See this? That's just letting the rain and storms and dirt and animals inside these cars. Then the interior and clips and trim is bad for the next person, so let's close these doors. I'll show you more about the assembly on my car, but like I said, I got this window up, put a couple screws back in the track, put a screw back in the window. So this glass is mostly up. The only thing that's going to be missing is this quarter vent. That's a lot less damage happening to this car until the car ultimately gets scrapped. That way, if anybody wants any of these nice seats that are in here, they're in good shape still. They still have something useful to get out of this car. I'll put the door liner back on any car that I take it loose on, and almost always you can just reuse the same sticky glue to do that. And assembly is the reverse order of how you took it apart, so I don't need these parts, so I'm going to leave them with the car. The door liner and trim assembly. So you want to always put this wire through here before you snap the door panel back on so that you can get to it. I usually pull it through on this side, and then might actually be a good idea to put the switch connector back on it. And again, you might say, why did I go to all the trouble putting that back together? It's not mine. Somebody else might just want to tear it apart. Well, when you take them apart in the wrecking yard and leave it all disassembled, the parts get lost, they get knocked out of the car, and most of it I just finger tightened. But I'm going to leave this one like this. So that's how to get that window out, and to install it, it's the reverse. We're going to gently massage it in, we're going to put the trim parts back on, and then we'll be done. Okay, I'll go ahead and install this window now. I've off camera went ahead and gave it a quick wash up because it had a lot of silt and debris. Keep my hands a little bit cleaner while I'm working on it. It's always nice to assemble parts that are clean. And let's get to it. As you can see, the door panel is off, the liner is open, the window is down, the trim is pulled out of the track, and not sure if this is going to go in easier from the inside or the outside, but let's figure it out. Seems like it's going to go in easier from the outside, but because I already acquired this piece of trim, I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. And that'll help. This one's damaged anyways. You can see it has a pretty good smash back here. Probably how that window got broken. The car was stolen and recovered, and we don't know why the window was broken. I think I'll wash this up and decide which one of these two is better. I think the top one that I brought home with me from the wrecking yard is better. Yeah, this one looks okay now that it's washed up. Went ahead and cleaned that window felt. It's not perfect. It's got a few scratches in it, but the car's old. Has a few scratches too. This one's at least straight and not banged up too bad. We'll use it. Now let's see about putting this in from this side. I think I decided that going in from outside was a way better option. I should have paid a little bit better attention when I took it out as to how it was all lined up, but I think we can figure it out. That looks right. It's snug all around here. I'll see if the screw holes on the back line up. Okay, so installing it from the outside was the right answer. And I do have the screw holes lined up here. Here. And here. So I'll go ahead and put that bolt in and the two Phillips screws, not tightening any until all are snug. So it's always good to keep track of which screw goes where, but the longer Phillips screw goes here in the back corner. And I'm gonna, before I tighten this, give everything a nice tight push and wiggle one more time towards the rear, because I don't want any wind, sound, noise, whistles, whatever you want to call it. I want a good tight seal. Okay, that's done. And one more. 10 millimeter. Okay, start putting some of these pieces of trim back on and get that window up. First of all, this door molding, or window molding, I guess I should call it. And it's also the window track or felt. Might be better done from the outside. Yep, definitely making a mess of it trying to do it from the inside. I'm gonna get this pushed up in the corner. Give it a nice tight drag upwards and then smack that all in. So you can't see what I did there, but all the way down inside the door, I got that rubber back in the groove. Now this kind of snaps up in to this window frame, door frame. And a couple, can't see me squeezing it, but that's in. That looks good. And then this piece will kind of roll in, but it's going to have to slide forward too. So maybe I got to do a magic trick. So I'm going to see what happens here. Okay, it requires a little bit less magic if you take this screw out right here to take this clip retainer off, and then yep, and then the whole thing just slides back, tucks in here, rolls over this edge, and then sucks back tight when you tighten that screw. Right there. It is important to be sure that the glass is lined up in the bottom of this track for the corner vent window before you get everything to assembled, and also in this corner of that track. Okay, so got the inside and outside door felts installed. The corner vent window is installed. I think I have all the rubber where it belongs, except for this little piece. So that was put on with double stick tape. I think I'm going to put a little bit of molding adhesive on this and tape it down. I think that'd be the right thing to do. Okay, that's some black adhesive and some tape. I'm going to push that down. Not a lot of incentive for this to stay, but I think the door liner should hold it in place and let the glue firm up. Okay, so I just slid the window up and down and let it rest nice and gentle and naturally in these two brackets, and I'll put the screws in it. Okay, with my 10mm 1/4" drive, I got those both tight. And I'm ready to start assembling the door liner. And the first thing I do is put this plastic liner back up. I try to never rip that. This is what keeps the moisture and a lot of the sound out, mostly moisture barrier. But you can reuse that goopy, terrible stuff that I described earlier. Push that wire connector through. Went ahead and clipped it to the switch, but didn't install the switch yet. Almost all door panels like to go on top down, so hook this top edge up here before we put it down. You just go ahead and bump all these in, and you can see that the gap is closed. This is looking good. The gap is closed. Then go ahead and snap the window latch back down in. It looks like it goes in rear first. I'll put these two 10mm screws in. Get this window bezel back in, or door handle bezel back in. That looks good. And that's it. The last thing we're gonna do is snap these covers in, and this reflector light lens. And that's how you replace the corner window on an 03 Buick Century. Looks good. To replace the rear wing window on an 03 Buick Century, this will be the passenger door. I will show you how to do that. 03 Buick Century, like that in the back. Looks like this in the front. The first thing we're going to do is remove the door panel. We start by removing this and the two 10mm screws. We'll remove this and the electrical connector, and we'll remove this to make sure there's not a Phillips screw behind it. Those screws are now out. We should be able to pry this up by just gently pulling up on it. Always go gently. You don't know what clips are there. You don't want to break any. You can see how the clips are here. That just snaps in. Easy. This should pop right out. Same type of thing, just pull straight out. Pried straight out. Better if you have a trim tool. I'm just using a flat screwdriver here because that's what I have with me. Now there are clips all the way around the edge of this door, and oh, this one comes out too. We're going to remove this trim panel around the door handle.